So whenever you're ready.
All right, we're recording.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, and I'm calling to order the March 19th meeting of the Sandusky Landmark Commission. Gwen, will you call the roll, please?
Elliot Dyer.
Here.
George Feltner.
John Filter.
Oh, John Filter, sorry.
Here.
Alan Griffiths.
Here.
Jeff Crable.
Here.
Louis Schultz.
Okay. We do have a quorum. First of all, welcome to John Felter to his first meeting as a new member. Thank you very much for volunteering to
Thank you.
be part of this
Good to be here.
committee, whatever we are. Are we a committee? We're a committee. Commission. We're a commission. Look at that. We have the minutes available from our January 15th meeting. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much for that. We have one application for certificate of appropriateness, 2 administrative approvals, and some other business today. So with that, Erin, would you like to start?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have an application for a certificate of appropriateness for 314 West Market Street. This property is known as the Register Building. In the diagram, there's highlighted around, the yellow is highlighted around the original Register Building. It does also, the corner part of it is the original, and then there's an addition there, and then the blue outline is around a warehouse building that's getting repurposed. This is a contributing structure in the downtown historic district, as shown on the map in this diagram. And here you can see the street views from the West Market elevation and then from Jackson Street. And the proposals that you're reviewing today are for the West Market Street elevation of the property. So none of the historic facade will be changed. So there's 4 components of this proposal, and I have them separated into each 4 component with a single recommendation for the project as a whole. But if you'd like to discuss the 4 components, I can pause. Just let me know how you'd like to treat those. The first is a mural. The mural is proposed on 3 walls of this building. It's a 2,700 square foot total mural. It'll be about 20 feet tall, encompassing the large majority of the 3 walls that are highlighted. These are all warehouse walls. They're more modern brick. They were added sometime in the 60s or more recently. So we have confirmed that the mural proposal would be on modern brick. The location is on a secondary non-historic elevation, and our guidelines encourage murals on secondary facades of historic and non-historic buildings that have minimal architectural detailing. So the staff analysis would say that those are met. Also for context, the Public Arts and Culture Commission did review the content of the mural itself. There was an artist-led grant proposal in front of them yesterday. They approved a $5,000 grant for the mural. That approval is contingent on if the Landmarks Commission grants the certificate of appropriateness, and they will also be required to go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Because the mural location faces Market Street, it fits within our definition of signage. So the Board of Zoning Appeals will be reviewing the size, and they'll need a size variance. So Landmarks reviews the location. It's just about the appropriateness of the location, which is the decision that you are facing today. And then I have the signage. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to talk? Do you want to pause
Let's
there?
maybe just, pause after
Okay.
each one. So my only comment just to commission members is that our remit does not extend to the content of the mural. Our remit extends to whether it's an appropriate location for a mural. Fortunately, there are other people, certainly more highly qualified than I am, in the adjudication of art, let's put it that way. So that's my only comment. Are there any other questions or comments from members? And just so we're clear, the adjudication of, or the kind of waiver for like size of the mural is something that will be dealt with by
That's the Board of Zoning Appeals.
zoning appeals.
Yep,
Okay.
and it's on that agenda for March 27th.
Got it.
That's a 3 PM meeting.
Okay.
So moving on to signage. There are 2 halo-lit signs proposed. One is a blade sign, it defines as a marquee sign in the ordinance in our sign code, and a wall sign, and you can see the outlines of where those are proposed on the building elevations. So the blade sign and the marquee sign is to be installed on the corner of the primary facade, so you can see it closer, like from Columbus Avenue, to help draw attention to the building. And then the wall sign is above the double doors, which we'll see here soon, which is an entrance to the business that they're calling the Emporium. Zooming in a little bit more, you can see a rendering of those 2 signs and those locations. And then you can see the front and the side views of those signs. Here in the side view, you can see that the word, the Emporium, those letters will be individually raised from the sign, and the halo light will glow from behind there, and which is what's shown as appropriate in our guidelines of that type of halo lit style. This is the marquee sign, so you can see that the words, the letters, the Emporium will be raised from the sign face and have that glow behind them at night. And they did provide one rendering of an example of what that would look like, and they have the appropriate light temperature, the color of the light, as well as the style of light according to our guidelines. So the staff analysis is the design is in proportion to the historic architecture, the illumination type is appropriate. The blade sign helps ease the transition from the 4-story facade to the single-story structure. It'll add visibility to the Emporium space, and in conjunction with the mural really is expected to add vibrancy to West Market Street. And that's not specifically the purview of Landmarks Commission, but part of the consideration. The size of the signs and just how prominent they are is one of the reasons why we brought them to the commission, even though halo-lit signage is stated to be appropriate in our guidelines. But because we have such a comprehensive proposal, that was one of the reasons we brought it to the board for review instead of a staff approval. And that's my final comments with the signs.
Any comments from commissioners?
Well done.
Yeah, my only question just on the sign itself is set to be a 60 square feet. Do you have the height measurement of it?
The height measurement is on this slide, although I can't read it from here.
It's in the back. Here.
16 and a half feet.
Yeah.
When I spoke with the manufacturer, and on page 7 of the staff report, there's a good view of where it will hit the building. So the bottom of it will align, let me go to,
We've got it in our packet.
okay, yeah, so on page 7, you can see where the bottom of it will align with the top of the arches, and then the top of it will align with the window sills on the 3rd floor. So I encouraged him to really think carefully about the signage aligning with some logical architectural detail of the facade, and that it was smaller than the register lettering going up and down the building. The register lettering is now kind of considered a historic part of that building, and they don't intend to remove it, so we want to make sure that kind of in the prominence of the graphic, that it didn't kind of take that over.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, I think you covered it perfectly.
Okay.
Thank you. Next is the exterior entry door. This is an appropriate replacement door. It will create visibility between the outside and the inside with the glass. It's a metal framed entry door with glass panels. It's a minor change and appropriate to the guidelines. If that's the only thing they brought us, we would have staff approved it, but because it was such a comprehensive proposal, that's why it's in. We brought all 4 parts to you. We thought that made the most sense.
It's fine.
And finally, we have the entry ramp, and very similarly, this is to increase the ADA accessibility into the building. It'll have a very simple black railing, concrete ramp. Again, that's considered a minor change and appropriate in the guidelines, and it will improve the access to the structure. So in total, with the 4 components, we do recommend, staff recommend approval with our typical condition that all applicable permits are obtained through the Building Department, Engineering Department, Planning Division, and any other applicable agency prior to construction, that the applicant agrees to be responsible for any routine maintenance and upkeep of the mural, that including cleaning, touch-ups, and any graffiti removal if it's applicable, and that a variance for the size is acquired from the Board of Zoning Appeals due to the mural size and location. And I did add a final one when I was making this presentation. I think we should note that the mural paint should be appropriate for masonry. Even though it's modern masonry, we know it's not as much of an issue. The paint they use should be appropriate for masonry.
Okay, thank you very much. I see Mimi Chicotel is here. Do you want, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but you're welcome to if you would like to. Mimi, it's up to you.
Yeah, sure. So just want to go.
So just come over to the microphone and we'll need just give us your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Mimi Chicotel. How are you doing? So I just want to introduce the Emporium concept. So this is going to be a marketplace within the register for multiple purpose. So we have a tattoo studio and artist tables so they can sell the handmade products. And then a farmer's market, especially for the winter, for downtown. I think that will be hopefully driving more traffic to the west side, the west side. And then there will be space for maximum of 4 food truck. So that hopefully will bring some activities and to that part of the towns. And so it's really a community space, and for all of everybody, and a low cost model. So we're looking for $15 to $20 a day for each table, so anybody can come and sell. So yeah, that's very exciting, and thank you for your time.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions, comments? Yep. Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion on the staff recommendation?
So moved. Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, Quinn, will you call the roll, please?
Jeff Crable.
Yes.
Ellie Dyer.
Yes.
John Felter. Ellen Griffiths.
Yes. Thank you very much. That is approved. Thank you. And I just certainly personally like to congratulate Mimi, you, and Alan and the Chicotels in the purchase of this building, and look forward to seeing it coming into use and prominence downtown. I know it's been used by the Register, but for multi-use and more kind of public access would be great. So thank you.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Okay, now I think we are moving on to our staff approvals.
Thank you. We have 2 staff approvals. The first is signage for 128 East Market Street. This is located at, you can see the facade, it's where Lakeland Design was formerly located on Market Street. And it is a contributing structure in the historic district. The signage proposed is hand lettering, so they're going to remove, the Lakeland Design was vinyl, they're going to remove that, and they're going to hand paint the new signage, which is Ink Row Tattoo Studio. They're in there working on that space right now, getting it ready to open. And the staff granted this certificate of appropriateness on February 11th, 2025, with our typical condition that the applicable permits are acquired. It's very simple graphics and appropriate to the guidelines.
Okay.
Next is 217 East Water Street. Again, this is another sign approval. It's the facade, which was Saucy Coffee most recently, is now Sweet Cheeks Cafe. It is a contributing structure. You can see the street view from when it was Saucy Coffee, and again, this is a non-contributing structure. I think that's because it used to be taller, and then the multi-floors had were taken off, so it's been altered significantly since its historic character. The proposed signage is a black background featuring lettering and with accent color, and actually this is has been completed, so we have a picture live in person from yesterday of that completed signage. And the staff granted the certificate of appropriateness on January 23rd, 2025, with our typical condition that they get all their necessary permits.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so other business, should we take the amendment first
Sure.
and then move on to the Coopthorne?
Okay. So we brought today a proposed text amendment, and the text is actually in our planning and zoning code. So the documented amendment process is for planning commission. Whenever we have an amendment to our zoning code, planning commission recommends that to city commission. We thought it would be good practice and good process for us to bring it to you first, and if you choose to recommend it to planning commission, to recommend that planning commission recommend to city commission to adopt. And I have that completely written out at the end of this presentation, so you don't have to say it. The current Landmarks Commission ordinance designates this board as a 7-member commission. 1 is a city commissioner appointed by the president of city commission, and then 6 citizens of the city, which we take to be residents voting members of our community. It also states, and this is part of the requirements of the certified local government that is the enabling legislation of the state that we can have historic preservation boards, that 2 of the members on the commission shall have expertise in architecture, history, planning, archaeology, or related field to the extent possible in the community. So if we don't have that in the community, it's okay, but it really adds a lot of value to the board when we're able to find that expertise and that representation on the board. The challenge is finding members in the community who, with that expertise, who also live within city limits. We are a small population city. We have a lot of population that live, outside of city limits. And the task that was brought to staff, the Landmarks Commission directed us to look into an option to amend the ordinance and expand the membership requirements with the goal of adding expertise to the board. The Ohio History Connection has a map of certified local governments. So what I did was started closest to Sandusky and started researching other cities that are similar in population size, like under 50,000 people, and just looked at their ordinance and looked into what they do. So we surveyed Elyria, Oberlin, Bowling Green, Lima, Medina, Shelby, Gallion, Piqua, Delaware, and Lancaster. And out of those 10, 2 of them had no residency or citizen requirement whatsoever. 3 of them said all the commission members have to be citizens or residents of their city. And 5 of them had specific exceptions when a commissioner could be not a resident. And it was often if they were a business owner, or if they owned property in the historic district, or if they had the expertise that's required by in the ordinances. So given that, we thought it's appropriate to bring an exception to our ordinance, and working with the law department, we created a draft, which you have in the packet. And the summary of that is, as the updated draft, the proposed update would say that up to two of the members on the board may reside outside the city if they own property or a business within the city limits and provide expertise in one or more of the disciplines that need to be represented. And this could allow us, for example, to invite an architect that has a business in town but lives outside of town onto the board, which could add a lot of value to the evaluation that we're doing. So that's the proposed text amendment that we have brought forward, and we recommend that the Landmarks Commission make a motion to recommend Planning Commission move to recommend City Commission adopt the proposed amendment to Section 1161.03 of the Planning and Zoning Code.
Okay, discussion. Well, go ahead.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'm not at all opposed to this. I certainly understand, why this is being brought forward. And I think generally speaking, I would be in favor of it. What I would say, though, is that I think that there should be a clause, a sentence, something added by council that says that this would only come into effect, this exception would only come into effect if we cannot find the appropriate skill set locally, by a local resident, however you'd put that. Preference be given to local residents.
Okay.
I'm not trying to dictate specific language here. I'll leave
Yeah.
that to someone a lot smarter than me. So.
Any other thoughts or comments?
I think it's really important because I know in my time here, we've had trouble even finding a quorum sometimes based on people who
Yep.
would like to be part of this alone, let alone with the expertise. So if we expand it out, and there's a lot of folks who live outside that do have a stake in the city, I think that'd be important, especially if they have the background to give us that input. So, but definitely prioritize locals first, obviously. But this is great.
Concur. John, any thoughts?
I mean, probably wouldn't be a big problem either. I don't think we're going to have people coming from Columbus and Detroit just to serve on a volunteer landmark commission board. You know, I think everybody who would be interested would have some sort of stake in it.
Yeah, agreed. I think my only thought would be, building on what Commissioner Crable was saying, is expanding the language. I guess expanding the language to include people with a some sort of substantial connection to Sandusky rather than just owning property or business. So, for example, I know of an architect who was born here, went to school here, went and pursued her career elsewhere, lives not in the city now, but in our neighboring township, but has a substantial connection, who is in the business of redoing old homes. So would have valuable expertise. So it would be a shame to exclude her or someone like her, for example, if we were saying she had to own property or own a business. Any thoughts?
The tricky part, and I'm not opposed to that, but the tricky part is in the term substantial and how one interprets that, and who is the interpreter of that. I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, and perhaps I'm already on the edge of the weeds right now, but I think that's why staff probably recommended, owns property or has a business here, because those are discernible, specific, things.
Stuart, do you want to comment on that or have a thought?
Oh, well, it's mostly a policy decision. I mean, all of it's legal.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Commissioner Crable's language. Preference, we could add a phrase, preference to be given to local residents.
Yeah.
I think that sounds reasonable.
I think that's
Just as a
then-
tiebreaker,
Yeah, and just add that to the beginning of that.
And if I'm correct, the city commission ultimately has final say. So if we had
Yeah.
some sort of,
it's true.
glut of applicants, I mean, I would trust our commissioners to say, well, this person has more of a substantial connection to the city than this person.
For sure. So, in theory, we could do all three. We could say, we prefer local residents, or they get first priority, under the old term of, I know we've taken out the phrase citizens of the city, but under that understanding, that we are open to people whose principal residence is not in the city, but they own property or have a business here. But then we would also be open to a third category of people with a defined substantial connection to the city, whether
Previous.
it's through previous residence or birth or family or other connections.
Are you suggesting we define that connection? Or
Well, I'm assuming there is a definition that we don't have to define here necessarily.
I'm not sure what substantial connection means without a definition.
Right.
Yeah.
I
But
think even just something as simple as, like what Jeff said, with preference being given to local residents and then perhaps local business owners, maybe,
Was it,
not necessarily in that order, but maybe in that order.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
And maybe let's not overthink it. Maybe let's go with what we have and see how that works out. I mean, if we are able to determine, that we have historians or, architects and we can fill the slots and, then great, we move forward with it. And if we still cannot manage to, fill the slots, then we come back and staff brings us, language about substantial.
I'm happy with that. I guess I'm just saying, let's put the whole package together now and be done with it, but that would be my view. So, let's do it let's split it down. We have essentially three clauses to add. One would be language about preference to local residents. And I think we would leave it to staff, to the staff to come up with the exact language going forward. That we would agree to say that two members. Can I just clarify the language too? Are we saying that the two members who would reside outside of the city or be property owners would have to have a position, an expertise as defined under those categories?
That's how it's drafted now.
okay,
You
yeah.
could just cut the business or property owner. I assumed that like some sort of connection would be more palatable to everyone that's going to review this language. But as it's drafted, it says that up to two members may reside outside the city if they are property owners or business operators in the city and add expertise.
Okay.
So the only way that a non-resident could get picked is if they have both of those.
Okay, so my sense is that we're in agreement generally that we would accept that language, that we would give preference to local residents as currently defined. There may be a debate about whether we broaden that to include people with some substantial connection. Is that? So let's split it out and have two votes. Well, first of all, I would have moved, I would entertain or ask for a motion to amend the current language to include the words substantial connection or substantial connection. And then we can vote on that and then see where that takes us and then come back to whatever language we have left for a final vote.
Yeah, the other piece is the preference.
Right.
I haven't just, to maybe nitpick at the language a little bit, Aaron said that, we'll, more like a goal of having these two people, but if we can't, can't find two people with this sort of level of expertise, that's okay. But the way it's worded right now, to me, says at a minimum, two members shall be professionals or have this expertise. Is that kind of?
The reason for that is that's part of the state guidelines for us to qualify.
Okay.
We have to have that expertise in order to maintain our standing. Is that correct, Aaron?
To the extent available in the community. And I
Yeah,
thought
and
that
if
we
we
had
had-
kept that in there.
If we had some language, to the extent that such individuals are available,
So,
Basically, the way it's written right now is it's in item F, which is struck and just moved to the top. But if you look in item F, that's the current language that's all in red lines right now. And it does give us an out, like we want that expertise unless we can't find it. Essentially is what it's
I
saying,
get it.
but it's really nice to have, which is the reason why we're talking
that's-
about it.
and the issue is the local government certification
sure.
requires us to have two members with expertise.
Right.
In theory.
I think.
Yes, to the extent available, yes.
Okay, so going back, so really we have two amendments. One is to include the notion of preference to local residents. And then one would be potentially to broaden the scope to add those with a substantial connection. So
So you want a motion?
I want a motion on each of those so we can take them separately.
All right. I would make a motion that we accept the staff's language with the addition of a statement about preference to be determined by our law director.
Is there a second for that?
Second that.
Any further discussion on that one? Okay, I guess Quinn, will you call the roll, please?
Jeff Crable.
Yes.
Elliot Dyer.
Yes.
John Feltner.
Yes.
Alan Griffiths.
Yes. Okay, then the second one would be a motion to include broader language, essentially allowing for individuals who are not property owners or business owners, but have a, quote, substantial connection to the city to also be members. I have a motion for that.
I have a motion for that as long as they're, have that background.
Right,
As-
that's the
as
case for,
stated, yeah.
that's the case for all of these people.
Then I would make a motion for that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further conversation there?
I have one comment.
Yep.
Just a reminder that everybody has to attend the meetings in person, so
Yes, understood.
that, I think
Yep.
that helps
Yeah.
with the regional draw. that we
Understood. Yeah, yeah, the rules apply.
A question I would have is, as you contemplate this language, I could understand, you know someone who lives in the township and, but does not own property or have a
Right.
business here and that sort of thing. Would the fact that they graduated from St. Mary's or Sandusky High School be adequate to
Well, I think that-
satisfy that?
I think that's a question for the lawyer.
I just think we're putting him in a
that's-
difficult
Yeah,
place.
that's not a legal question,
I
that's a
think-
policy question. It's
That's a
what we
policy
want.
question.
Yeah, what do we want?
Right.
I mean, you could also have a law director who majored in history in college, so,
I think defining substantial connection seems like it could become difficult, and it could open the door to, what if somebody spent a lot of time here as a kid and has a fond feelings about this area, and something like that would be precluded based under our definition. I don't know, that seems like it could get messy, and again, going back to the fact that this is a volunteer board and everybody has to appear in person, who is going to be interested in this that doesn't have some sort of substantial, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could that,
The other thing I would add, there's another level to the appointment. The appointment is approved by the city commission itself.
Sure.
Right.
So if it's to a majority of the commissioners, they don't think there's a substantial connection in their mind.
We don't actually make appointments.
No, you
for
don't.
it. It's the
This-
city commission.
City
that makes
commission
the
does.
appointment.
The commission president makes the appointment with the approval of the city commission.
I guess my only comment, John, is, I'm thinking about people that may have lived, worked,
Yeah.
been educated, been born in the city, who, for whatever reason, have decided to move to Perkins or to Huron or
Yeah.
to Edison, or to Milan or wherever. No longer own property, no longer live and work here,
Right.
but would have, I'm calling it substantial connection. And,
could we define that substantial connection here and just say previous
we could say,
resident or?
and lives in Erie
school.
County. Look, I don't mind either way. To your point, Jeff, we can always come back to
I'm
this.
just really struggling with it.
Yeah. Let's do this. We have a vote on the table. Are you comfortable if we take this to a vote?
Oh,
We have
I may vote against it.
Sure.
Just because I'm uncomfortable with the nebulousness of it, but yeah. But, yeah, no, I have no objection to voting. That's
Okay.
fine.
So have we defined the term yet?
We have not, no.
Okay.
I think we would leave that to staff and the city commission.
And this will go to planning commission next, so they would
Yeah.
have
That's true.
comments about it, and they will.
And they may say, what mess have you given us?
Send it right back to us.
The law department does not make policy, just so you know.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. Quinn, will you please read the roll? So on the amendment for all three, or sorry, to add the language about substantial
Yeah,
connection.
that's,
with the required expertise, right?
Yes.
Okay. Alan Griffiths,
Yes.
John Felter, I'm so sorry. I'm like
John
butchering.
Felter, yeah.
I'm like butchering your name.
Yes.
Elliot Dyer,
Yes.
Jeff Crable.
No. Okay, that motion is passed. Thank you, and Godspeed to the Planning Commission. When's their next meeting?
It is April, because
Okay.
March, we didn't have any applications, so this will get onto their April 23rd agenda.
I guess for the purposes of our, just expediting this, do commissioners feel like we need to see this again if the language has changed the planning, or are we comfortable to take their, I mean, they have the remit to take it, so my view would be just let them do their thing, and
Yeah.
That would be my view. And again, I think we're sort of getting a little hypothetical that we're going
We
to have
are.
all these candidates. come in.
And this eventually goes to the city commission. too,
Correct, yeah.
So they can
So-
make any changes.
so we don't need to see it again, is the point,
Yeah.
regardless of whatever. I
And
mean,
we've said our piece.
yeah.
What do we need to do about Cook Dorn?
Okay, Cook Dorn, just very quickly, I just want to draw attention to an issue that was brought to my attention. So the Cook Dorn building, as everyone knows, on Columbus Ave, is a major historic landmark in the city of Sandusky, representing kind of two really of our largest historical families, and is a site of significant. It's on the National Register, it's on the Ohio History Connection Register. It is currently owned because it was bequeathed by the will of Mrs. Dorn to the Ohio Historical Society, now the Ohio History Connection. They have for many years essentially given the Old House Guild of Sandusky a contract to manage the building, and it has been operated as a museum. The Old House Guild has done, quite frankly, yeoman's work and spent thousands and thousands of volunteer hours looking after, maintaining, and staffing the building, and they have done an excellent job. They have decided to withdraw from that contract, and the contract ends at the end of June. Correct me if I think that's correct. And at that point, the Ohio History Connection has to decide what to do with the building. So having been made aware of that situation, I did a little bit of digging, and I have put some phone calls out to the Ohio History Connection, have not heard back from them yet, so, but, you know, they are a busy government agency doing lots of things, so this may not be as high on their priority as it is ours, but I will continue to reach out to them. This commission's remit and my concern is clearly ensuring the integrity of the building. And certainly from my perspective, the worst thing that could happen is that the building sits empty with no one regularly looking after it or going into the building to ensure that there's nothing happening. I know, for example, at the moment, the person from the Old House Guild who goes in there regularly has to go around and manually flush some of the toilets and those kinds of things to make sure that there aren't issues with sewer gas backup, et cetera, et cetera. So as we know, empty buildings are not good buildings in terms of long-term preservation. I have not heard the Ohio History Connection's position. I would guess that while there may be local entities interested in taking on the running or the management of that building, the finances of that contract are upside down in the sense that the money provided by the Ohio History Connection, which comes from a amount of money that was put in trust by Mrs. Dorn for that purpose, is not sufficient for the general running of the building. It includes things like paying the bills, water and electric bill, et cetera, and the amounts, I'm not going to quote them here because I don't know them off the top of my head, but they certainly don't pay for the staff time, let's put it that way.
And you run into issues that if you don't put some heat into the building, that over a period of years, you're going,
Right.
the building will begin to deteriorate.
Correct, yeah.
So-
There is some, there are some works that need to be done on the building that the Old House Guild have proposed to the Ohio History Connection. Again, I think there are funding issues there in terms of the cost of those repairs and the funds that OHC has available. Without speaking directly to them, I can't speak to their position, but clearly one of their issues is funding, so.
One of the thoughts is that if there are capital issues, or major repairs or
Yeah.
what have you, that be something that someone, maybe it's the Historical Connection or someone else, approach the legislature about being part of the capital budget.
Yep.
Maybe not this year, because I'm not sure there is one this year, but
In the future.
June of, next year. That seems to be a reasonably appropriate way to move on something like that. But the question of having someone who's going to take responsibility for the structure, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I think you're right. I think there are two issues. One is the long-term issue,
Yes?
absolutely, of the capital expenditure in terms of keeping repairs to the building. That, from what I have seen, probably runs to the low hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It's not insignificant, but it's appropriate for the kind of building that we're talking about.
Yeah.
There are furniture, fixtures, fittings in there that are of historical value. There are others that maybe are not. But the short-term issue is, who's going to turn the lights on July 1st?
Yeah.
And that is as yet unresolved. So really, this is just informational to the commission. We will continue to work. I know that, that Chief Planner Aaron has had some interactions on this. I think we will continue to try to get a position from the Ohio History Connection as to their short-term and long-term plans for the building and see where we go from there. I have had a conversation with the Dorn Foundation, the attorney there, Mary Jane Hill, who is aware of the situation. There is this is public, there is a clause in the will that allows for the building to be returned to the Dorn Foundation if the building is not being used as per the terms of the grant that was made by the family to the Historical
And
Connection.
then am I correct that part of the issue is that interest is pretty low in the site as a museum? They're just not getting many people?
Right.
I don't know that.
That was,
Yeah, I don't know that, and I'll be honest, I don't,
Yeah.
at this point, how the building is used, to me, is secondary to
yeah.
it being used, and there are a number of possible uses.
If I might interject, I think that there's a couple of issues. One is funding. All right, clearly, be that capital funding and/or operational. And if the operational funding is not adequate currently, it's not going to become adequate, as we move forward. The other issue is who's going to take responsibility, and I'm going to throw out a possibility, and that be the Erie County Metro Parks. Not sure that they would want to take that on. I'm sure that they would want to know that from, an operational budgetary kind of standpoint, that there was going to be funds available to support that they probably wouldn't want to take that on out of the current budgets.
Right.
But it seems like it might be a possibility,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
because they manage properties all over Erie County.
Right.
I'm going to keep thinking about this, because I don't want to see that building fall into disrepair or get closed up permanently or anything else. I think it has value to the community.
Yeah, 100% agree. Okay.
Puzzle.
Aaron, I think that you do have a sort of statement, if you like, on behalf of the city.
Sure. I'll also mention, I spoke with Mr. Berkey of the Old House Guild when the press release was given out. And it's my understanding that they did talk to the state, and they had advocated for the last couple of years that it should be returned to the condition of its period of significance, and that should be the museum of like that age. And that was really the Old House Guild's desire. It's my understanding that they really like to see it operate in a museum in that sense, but that required like a really big renovation.
Yeah.
But I took that information after speaking with him and Mr. Griffiths to leadership and just had a statement from the city that the city of Sandusky thanks the Old House Guild for its decades of dedication to the Cook Dorn House. Their commitment has helped preserve this important landmark and share its history with the community. As a protected site on the National Register of Historic Places, the Cook Dorn House is a vital part of Sandusky's heritage. The city, along with the Sandusky Landmark Commission, remains committed to historic preservation, and we hope the home continues to receive the proper care and attention to continue its upkeep and active use in the community. We just want to state that.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? All right, our next meeting will be April 16th, assuming we have business to conduct.
We do.
We do?
Yes,
Great.
we'll have an agenda item.
Great. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Good.